Hello, welcome to the audiobook of my Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds fanfic Crimson Star Priestess. If you are enjoying this series, make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe to my channel for updates. The link to the fanfic and my Discord server are in the description below. I do not own any Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds characters, I only own my OCs. Rally's group and I helped Yusei as much as we could to repair his duel runner the whole day. Blitz and Tank took care of the part to bang out the dents and make the frame receive its proper shape, since Yusei had a hard time moving his body around due to the stitches. In the evening, both Yusei and I sensed the presence of two dark signers from New Domino City and how one of the other signers shadow-dueled one of them. I could tell the signer was Aki, but shortly after the shadow duel, I lost the connection with her. I feared she had fallen into a coma due to the shock of losing Sayer, the last person she trusted. I was in the living room with the children to watch the television after breakfast. The kids' show was about to start when there was a breaking news report. The screen revealed the reporter Angelo Reigns standing in front of an off-limits area where construction workers scanned the destroyed streets caused by the two Nazca lines of the Hummingbird and the Lizard. We're coming to you live from downtown New Domino City, where last night a mysterious force rocked the entire city. Investigators are trying to determine the cause of the blast and the strange lines they left. Although there were no fatalities, 120 people seem to have simply vanished. There were also scattered reports of strange glowing lights in the sky. Now, with the people demanding answers to what really happened last night, all eyes are on a young woman who was found unconscious in the rubble, apparently the only witness to this disaster. Whoa, that's one big mystery, John said in awe. Sector security will find the missing people, I'm sure of it, Takuya said excitedly. The little girl with brown hair, Yuria, sat on my lap and looked at me. Do you think that woman is okay, Estelle? I hope so, I nodded as I patted her, combing my fingers through her hair. The screen changed the image from the destroyed streets to the hospital where a black limousine drove up. Reporters had gathered outside to gain access to the building to see who the mysterious woman was, because the authorities didn't want to reveal the name of a minor, but their attention was quickly drawn to the limousine. The driver of the vehicle got out and opened the passenger door in the back, letting two people out who I inwardly growled at. They were Aki's father and mother, the ones who threw her out of their lives because they were afraid of her powers, especially the father. I picked up Yuria and placed her next to me before I stood up from the couch and left the living room. I needed some fresh air to cool off due to the frustration I felt toward Aki's parents. They reminded me a lot of the parents I once knew in my dimension that had children or grown-up children with autism, but they didn't do anything to help them develop their skills, overcome their difficulties and mature. Those children never got the help from their parents like I got from my parents. I took a walk nearby Martha's house, sensing there was no danger nearby, so I was away for half an hour. When I returned, I was greeted by Yusei and Blister, who checked the duel runner that was almost repaired. Blister typed on a laptop while Yusei revved the engine of his motorcycle. It released a nice and smooth sound that revealed there were no problems with the engine. Sounded sweet, Blister commented as he walked to Yusei. Nice job. Looks like the patient can now leave the hospital, I added. Thanks. It's almost ready, Yusei said with a tiny smile, sounding a bit hesitant. Any news about what's been going on in New Domino City? The whole city is in chaos, Blister informed us as he turned the laptop to Yusei to show him the images of the scars left behind by the two Nazca lines and the Arcadia Movement's building standing in the epicenter. The Dark Signers decided to turn 10 city blocks of buildings into rubble. The only thing left is the Arcadia Movement's headquarters. Do you think they went after Aki? Yusei asked. Probably, Blister nodded. She's in the hospital. I hacked into her records and it sounds like she won't wake up. A coma? Yusei mumbled quietly as he stared at his right arm. That explains why I lost the connection with Aki's mark last night, I spoke up as I held my right arm. You gonna use that signer mojo to help? Blister asked. 'Cause I'm sure she needs a friend right now. Just like you needed your friends when you were all banged up after that duel with Kalin. You're right, Yusei nodded before he clenched his hand into a fist. But I couldn't even help myself during that shadow duel. I'm sure I only make things worse for her. Yusei, I called. You didn't know about the power that the Dark Signers have. How were you supposed to know about the Earthbound Immortals and prepare yourself for them? True, Goodwin gave us some hints about the Immortals, but maybe he also had no idea. The air around us started to get violent as the noise of a helicopter approached us from above. I held onto my glasses to make sure they wouldn't fly off before looking up to see, indeed, a helicopter that was slowly descending to the ground. The helicopter landed in a big clearing a couple of meters from the house before it shut down its engine. A man with brown eyes, brown hair and beard, and dressed in a light brown suit got out of the helicopter and approached us. It was Aki's father, Izayoi Hideo. I glanced briefly over my shoulder to see Martha and the children of the orphanage had run out to see what the commotion was about. I turned my eyes back at Hideo, who stood in front of us, but his eyes were on me. I could see his eyes reflected desperation and a call for help. Are you Estelle Malmström, the woman who dueled Izayoi Aki at the Fortune Cup? The adult asked. Yes, I nodded. Jack Atlas told me you can help me and my family, Hideo continued. I was ready to give the man a slap and lecture him for abandoning his only child, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of the children. Come inside so we can talk. Yusei, Blister, Martha, Hideo and I were in the dining room to talk about the matter. Martha had shooed the children out to the playground so they wouldn't eavesdrop on us. The father sat opposite me by the dining table while Yusei sat next to me since he was also involved with this. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to see me, Miss Malmström, Hideo began. I'm here because I need you to save my daughter, Aki. Why should I help you? I asked straight out with a neutral voice while I crossed my arms. I heard from Aki that you and her mother pushed her away when you got scared of her psychic powers. I know, Hideo growled irritably, probably feeling anger towards himself. But I'm trying to make things right. She's in the hospital suffering from some heartbreak that's my fault. I pushed her away and she joined that Arcadia movement. With Sayer dead, she's got no one. She doesn't even respond to us, her parents, and who blames her? That's why I'm here. He lowered his upper body while I could hear in his voice how close he was to cry. If a man was so desperate and he didn't even fake his sad voice, then he was serious about it. Before I let the kids run off, Marta interfered as she served Hideo a cup of fresh tea, Blister staying quiet by one of the windows in the room. How about you tell us the whole story from the beginning? Hideo shared a glance with the elderly woman before staring down at the liquid of his cup of tea. Okay then. I've never been someone you might call Father of the Year. I had an important job. It was my first year as a senator and I had a lot of responsibilities. I guess I forgot what mattered. Long story short, Hideo told us the same thing that he said in the anime. While he told us the story, I could clearly see how much he regretted everything he had done to his daughter, but it was hard to hear how much pain he had caused to both himself and Aki. The worst part for me was when he called Aki a monster the day she received her mark of the dragon and psychic powers. The second worst part was when Aki ran home from Duel Academy only to find out her parents seemed to have a happier life without her, thinking they didn't care about her anymore. That was the last time I saw Aki until today, Hideo finished the tale. I know she joined the Arcadia movement and that eased my pain, but I always wondered if she felt vulnerable. Why couldn't you accept her? I asked straight out. Hideo looked at me as if I had grown 2 heads. Accept her? Why couldn't you accept she became different when she received her psychic powers? I repeated myself with a serious tone. If you had accepted Aki instead of shouting monster to her, that could have been a good start to help her. If you watched the duel between her and me, you must have heard when I told her about my autism, right? Right, Hideo nodded. Autism may not be the same as having psychic powers, but it made me different from the other children, I continued. It took some time for both me and my parents to fully understand what autism really was about, but when we did, we all accepted it. I accepted myself because my parents accepted me, and I wanted to know how I could help myself. But it's hard for an individual to help himself if he's not aware of his difficulties and doesn't know where to start. That's why those who are vulnerable and doesn't understand the world around them need their closest relatives to help shaping them. And those who can really help a child grow up are the parents, not the school or the teachers. That's one major mistake many parents do to their children with autism. I witnessed it myself, so I know what I'm talking about. Yes, that's the mistake Setsuko and I did. Hideo nodded before biting his lower lip and leaned over the table once again, his shoulders shaking while he held back his sobs. We didn't accept Aki's psychic powers and sent her away. A foolish mistake. He took a deep breath to collect himself. But I need your help. I can't heal her broken heart, but you can. Jack said that you cared about her. And he's right about that. I nodded, unfolding my crossed arms before standing up from my seat. That's why I will go. You will? Hideo looked up, blinking his eyes in surprise. I gave him a soft smile. It's not too late to heal Aki's heart and make amends for the lost time. I'm glad you and your wife were able to realize your mistakes. That's what makes one an adult. You sound like an author with your deep words, Estelle. Blister finally spoke up after he had been silent for a long time. I chuckled softly before turning to Yusei, who had remained silent on his seat. Are you coming with us, Yusei? Well, my wound still needs to heal up, so I'm staying, Yusei said before looking away. Don't play that card with me, Fudo Yusei, I said with a slight stern voice, knowing he was still doubting himself. For goodness sake, you say. You can't turn your back on this poor girl and let Estelle do all the work, or so help me. Martha frowned at her foster son. Unless you're afraid to duel again. You're still thinking about that duel with Cannon, right? Well, you can't stay here. Wounds healed, bikes prepared. What are you waiting for? Well, you see... Martha walked around the table while I stepped back so she could pinch the young man's ear. Shame on you, you say. If you're not gonna help that young girl, then why'd I patch you up? If I taught you one thing, you say, it's to help your friends. They're waiting for you. And if everything you said about these dark signers, purple light, and the end of the world is true, well then you'll need their help. And you're sure not gonna get it by sitting here in my dining room. I can't imagine how scared you must be, but you have to face that fear. I stepped forward and put a hand on Yusei's shoulder. As they say, you learn more from failure than success, and that's the same when it comes to confront your fear. You're a strong man, Yusei. Don't let that duel bring you down. Yusei's confused expression slowly turned into a smile. I could sense he was still scared, but he now knew he wasn't alone in this war anymore. We were going to face the dark signers together with the other signers and our friends. Thank you, both of you. Hideo looked relieved and hopeful that the two of us would go and help his daughter. And once this is all over, maybe you'll take Aki on a date, Martha joked as Yusei stood up from his seat. The young signer froze in surprise as he turned to his foster mother, his jaw almost reaching the floor. Huh? A what? His stunned expression looked really cute, which made me giggle. This was interesting. I had a crush on Yusei, but I didn't feel hurt by Martha's words or by the thought of Yusei and Aki dating in the near future. Maybe because I had accepted that those two could end up together in the end. I would be just happy for them that they had found a piece of their own happiness together. Martha continued with the teasing, loving the reaction from her foster son. I'm just saying that if you two have some sort of connection... I'm trying to save the world, not date, Yusei argued with red cheeks. Blister couldn't help but start laughing. He's already got a girlfriend. He's a runner. The rest of us started laughing, minus Hideo. I assumed he wasn't pleased by the thoughts of Aki dating someone. Yusei looked very embarrassed, but he let out a soft chuckle through his lips. Once the laugh feast was over, I hurried to my room and grabbed my satchel and dual disc before we could leave Satellite. Aki, wait just a little bit longer. Yusei brought his hybrid dual disc along in case I would lose to Aki, if we were even going to end up dueling once she was awake. Hideo's helicopter flew straight to the hospital in New Domino City and landed on the roof of said building. We got out of it and hurried inside and took the elevator to the floor where Aki was staying. We rounded a corner and met up with Jack, Leo and Luna. The twins looked happy to see us again, while Jack's eyes shone in relief that Yusei was up and about after the crash. Yusei! Estelle! Leo called. You're here! Luna smiled. Hey guys, Yusei nodded. Thank you for looking after Aki before we could get here, I thanked the trio. Hideo led me into the huge room where Aki was lying on a bed with medical equipment around her. Setsuko, her mother, stood by the bed, but she moved back to make way for me. She quickly went to her husband, who stayed in the background while I approached the bed. I turned to the others and saw they were staying in a fair distance before returning my eyes on Aki, who had a pair of sensors on her head. She had tears running down her cheeks from her closed eyes. Now that I was only centimeters from her, I could sense her feelings. She wanted to feel safe. She needed someone by her side, and I wanted to be that someone. "Aki," I called softly as I wiped the tears off her cheek. "It's me, Estelle. I'm here, so you can wake up now." I placed my right hand on her left hand, causing a chain reaction. My mark started glowing through the sleeve of my top before Aki's mark started to glow as well. I could feel Aki's barriers were slowly coming down before she opened her eyes. She looked a bit disoriented as she sat up on the bed and turned to me with a confused look. Estelle?" she mumbled weakly. "What happened to me?" Before I could answer, Hideo did the foolish thing to call her name. She turned to the source of the voice and let out a huge gasp of shock and anger. "Oh, what are they doing here?" Aki growled, hatred reflecting in her eyes toward her parents. "In case you didn't know, I've got a new family. Sayer's all I need now." She stopped herself when she remembered Sayer was no longer around after the shadow duel he probably had with Carly. She clutched her head while grunting in pain, but she also held back her tears at the same time. "I remember. He fell," Aki cried with a frightened expression. He's dead. He was all I had left." She got off the bed and glared at her father like an aggressive predator. "He was more a father to me than you ever were. This is all your fault." "He's aware of the mistakes he did to you, Aki." I spoke gently while I placed my hands on her shoulders to try calming her down, sensing the storm of her emotions through the bond. "But he's here too." "Stay out of this, Estelle," Aki growled. "That stranger over there ruined my life. Where am I supposed to go now? There's nothing left for me but a home in ruins and another father that's dead." Tears accumulated in her eyes while I knew she was inwardly crying for help. "If you're trying to erase the past, don't bother." She pushed me back with shaking arms, so I let go of her shoulders, knowing where this was going. "I already forgotten about them." She put her shoes on and strapped her dual disc on her left arm before jumping back. "And now I think I'll erase you from my memories as well." She activated her dual disc, threatening to use her psychic powers. "Aki, don't do this," Hideo shouted. "If you really have forgotten about your parents, then you wouldn't react like this, Aki," I retorted calmly. "But trust me, the rest of us want to be friends with you. I want to be your friend." "Friends?" Aki snorted, glaring at me with hatred. "You mean like you signers? From the moment I met you, I had my life completely torn apart thanks to that thing on my arm, and that's no one's fault but your own." If I had been my old self who took every single word seriously, I would have felt my eyes growing wet by tears and felt helpless and not able to find the right words to talk to Aki, but not anymore. I had changed and grown a lot by the trauma in my past, and I learned how to see the world around me. "Aki, let me be your friend," I told her. "You all want to destroy my life," Aki yelled and slammed a card on the dual disc, causing a whirlwind that blew the bed and the medical equipment around. "Well, I won't let that happen." The whirlwind was extra powerful this time. I skidded backwards a bit while I used my arm with the dual disc to shield my face. Once I had a firm foothold, I glanced over my shoulder to see the others had almost been thrown back. Leo and Luna held on to Yusei and Jack while Hideo held his wife. Aki's psychic powers were going over the limits. She was now on a thin thread to let her powers go berserk, and then she would be unable to control herself. All the anger and frustration she had locked away in her heart was coming out in one single storm. Luckily, the effect of the card Aki used lasted for a short moment before the whirlwind died down. She panted deeply as if she had just run a marathon. Aki, if the only way to reach your heart and help your family is by a duel, then I'll do it, I told her, straightening my back while raising my arm with the duel disc. Duel, huh? I thought that you never were gonna ask me, Aki said sarcastically with a glare. Now, I'll get rid of you once and for all! I activated my duel disc and picked up my deck from the pocket of my jacket and inserted it into the deck holder. Aki did the same thing and we both allowed our duel disc to shuffle the decks. Aki, I'll be the key to unlock your heart and show you the way to a bright future, I told her before getting serious. Someone like you can never be the key to my heart, Aki retorted. Duel! We drew the top 5 cards of our decks. I got Oracle of the Sun, Shadow Spell, Blue Ice White Dragon, Breakthrough Skill, and Bright Star Dragon. It was a decent hand to begin with. I'll be going first, Aki declared as she drew her 6th card. I summon Evil Thorn in attack mode. And I activate its effect, Aki continued. I release it to inflict 300 points of damage. I can't attack on my first turn, so it seems like a good trade-off. This might sting a little. Evil Thorn's seed exploded and sent the spikes straight at me. I used my duel disc as a shield once again and blocked the spikes as much as I could. The spikes exploded around me and the force pushed me back a bit, but it never threw me down. My mark was trying to protect me from Aki's soon-to-be uncontrollable powers. Evil Thorn's second effect. After releasing it to activate its first effect, I special summoned 2 Evil Thorns from my deck in attack mode, but their effects cannot be activated. And now I'll activate the spell Closed Plant Gate. I can use it whenever there's 2 plant monsters on my field. This spell gives them the power to create a living wall that nothing can penetrate. That means no attacks for you next round. The 2 evil thorns grew long vines that they tied together and created what it looked like a hedge around them. Your turn. Have fun. This is a serious game, so I'm taking this seriously, I commented before I drew my 6th card, which was Trade In. I start my turn by playing the spell card Trade In. You might remember what it does. I send 1 level 8 dragon monster from my hand to the graveyard to draw 2 more cards. I discarded Blue Ice White Dragon and drew Fire Ant Escator and Swords of Revealing Light. Perfect. Since you control monsters and I don't, I can special summon Oracle of the Sun in attack mode. I put the monster card on my duel disc. He won't stay alone because he now gets joined by a tuner monster known as Fire Ant Escator. And together they will tune into a sun that shines brighter than our solar systems. When the sun arises, all darkness is dispelled. Light, shine brightly. Synchro summon. Show yourself. Sun Dragon Inti. Amazing! Leo cheered in the background. Amazing or not, you can't attack this turn with that Sun Dragon, Aki reminded me. I know, so that's why I'll play your little game by activating Swords of Revealing Light. I played said card. 4 swords made of light appeared above us before they stabbed themselves to the ground around Aki's field. A yellow half-transparent dome appeared around her and the evil thorns, trapping them inside of it. Aki didn't even roll her eyes by the knowing she was trapped. During your next 3 turns, your monsters can't attack me, I explained before I placed Breakthrough Skill face down. I place one card face down and end my turn. Is that the best you can do? Aki taunted me as she drew a card from her deck while the effect of closed plant gate ended, the vines around the two evil thorns vanishing. Well, it won't help against this. I summon Twilight Rose Knight in attack mode. Twilight Rose Knight's effect. I can special summon one level 4 or lower plant type monster from my hand. I special summon Dark Verger in attack mode. I knew it. Black Rose Dragon was coming. I tune my level 3 Twilight Rose Knight with level 2 Dark Verger and my 2 level 1 Evil Thorns, Aki grind viciously. I know you think by dueling me you'll find the good Aki you know, but she left the moment Sayer and the Arcadia movement were lost. Her 4 dual monsters joined together into one bright light. I'm the Black Rose Witch and I synchro summon Black Rose Dragon! The Signer Dragon joined us on the field with a roar, but that roar sounded more like a cry of help. The wind that was created during the synchro summoning blew the others back a bit while I heard them struggling against the wind. This duel isn't just about winning or losing anymore, Jack shouted. It's gonna come down to who actually survives. Aki didn't choose to activate Black Rose Dragon's effect, so it was a good thing I didn't activate my breakthrough skill card. And now I activate the equip spell Thorn of Malice. This gives my dragon a little power boost. The thorns on Black Rose Dragon's body and vines grew longer and sharper with the equip spell. She looked like an extremely dangerous rose that no one was allowed to touch its fragile petals. Please, don't, Hideo pleaded in the background. Don't try to tell me what to do, Aki glared at her father. You treated me like a monster, so now I'll behave like one. That's who I am. You're not a monster, Aki, I shouted in frustration. It's a little late for you to try and help me, Estelle. Aki chuckled nonchalantly. I thought you really believed in me, but it was all about my mark. I'll never duel for you no matter what. Got it? I remained silent, not giving her an answer. I knew my words couldn't affect her right now, so all I could do was to keep dueling and display my true feelings with the help of my deck.